February 13th, 2007. The time is 14:13 hours. At the Apodaca Air Base in Monterrey, Sublieutenant Carlos Mendoza Herrera adjusts the controls of the ANFPS-117 primary radar. The air conditioning hums monotonously in the control room, where three green screens project the airspace of Nuevo León with millimeter precision. The routine is sacred. Each sweep of the radar covers 360 degrees in exactly 12 seconds. Commercial flights appear as predictable points of light, following air corridors established decades ago. Monterrey International Airport generates its usual traffic. Aeromexico, Volaris, private jets, all identified by transponder, their altitude and speed within normal parameters. But at 14:13 and 47 seconds, something changes. An object appears in Sector 7 Alpha at an altitude of 15,000 feet, moving at 340 knots in a southeasterly direction. It has no transponder. It is not on any flight plan, and in the next 23 seconds it executes a maneuver that defies all aerodynamic comprehension. It turns 90 degrees instantaneously, accelerates to 1,200 knots, and descends 8,000 feet in a straight line, only to then vanish completely from the radar, as if it had never existed. Mendoza remains motionless in front of the console, staring at the green screen, where no trace of the contact remains. His partner, Corporal First Class Miguel Santa María López, approaches from the weather station, his brow furrowed. The data makes no sense. No known aircraft can execute those maneuvers without disintegrating from lethal G-forces. The Mexican Air Force chose not to respond publicly. Internal reports were classified under the code Restricted, Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon. What they found was more disturbing than anyone could imagine. An object that violated the fundamental laws of physics, captured by state-of-the-art military technology, impossible to explain with conventional science. This is the true story of what happened on the Monterrey radar. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more cases like this, and activate the notification bell. Let me know in the comments what country you're watching this from. Sublieutenant Carlos Mendoza Herrera, age 28. A radar systems specialist with 7 years of experience in the Mexican Air Force. That Tuesday, he wore the standard-issue dark blue tactical shirt with the 2005 model radar operator insignia, perfectly pressed according to military protocol. His black leather boots shone under the fluorescent lights of the control room. In the left pocket of his shirt, he carried a photograph of his pregnant wife, Alejandra, who was expecting their first child in May. Mendoza had specifically requested the day shift to be present for the birth. His superiors had promised to rotate him to more favorable hours after the event of February 13th. That promise was never kept. His military records show repeated requests for a transfer starting in March of 2007. All of them denied due to the needs of the service. In his last documented communications with family, Mendoza described sleepless nights and technical concerns he couldn't share. Years later, his wife would recall that Carlos had changed drastically after that February, becoming withdrawn and obsessive with technical details she could not understand. Corporal First Class Miguel Santa María López. Age 31. An aeronautical meteorologist specializing in adverse atmospheric phenomena. 12 years of active service, considered one of the most precise analysts in the Northeast region. That day he wore the full-duty uniform, tactical shirt, cargo pants, tactical boots, and the distinctive blue cap with the Air Force shield embroidered in gold. Santa Maria had recently completed an advanced course in Rhode Island on advanced weather systems, funded by an exchange program with the U.S. Air Force. His specialty was correlating weather phenomena with radar anomalies. precisely the type of analysis required after the incident. In Santa Maria's personnel file, post-February 13th entries are revealing. He requests a reduction in technical responsibilities. He refuses to participate in atmospheric data analysis. He displays evasive behavior in work meetings. His military career, which had seemed destined for a promotion to sergeant, came to an abrupt halt. Records indicate he never again worked directly with radar systems. The two men shared more than just professional responsibilities. Just 6 days after the incident, both had signed specific non-disclosure agreements concerning aerial anomalies related to national security. Subsequent documents reveal that such agreements did not previously exist in the base's protocols. The psychological impact was documented indirectly through routine medical reports. Mendoza developed chronic insomnia and hypertension. Santa Maria showed symptoms consistent with post-traumatic stress, including avoidance of situations related to his specialty, hypervigilance during shifts, and anxiety attacks during technical tests. Neither of them ever worked on the analysis of unidentified aerial phenomena again. 07:45 hours. Start of the shift. The main hangar of the Apodaca airbase awakens with the mechanical precision of a military installation in normal operation. Mendoza arrives 15 minutes before his official start time, as is his custom, and performs the morning technical check of the ANFPS-1117 radar. The systems show optimal performance. Maximum range of 200 nautical miles, angular resolution of 1.4 degrees, and the capacity for simultaneous tracking of up to 200 targets. Santa Maria settles in at the adjacent weather console, where 3 monitors display real-time atmospheric data. Barometric pressure reads 1,021 millibars, temperature 18 degrees Celsius, wind from the northwest at 12 knots. Perfect conditions for normal air operations. Forecasts indicate no significant meteorological disturbances for the next 24 hours. Radio communication with the International Airport's control tower confirms standard traffic. 47 scheduled operations between takeoffs and landings, mainly domestic flights to Mexico City, Guadalajara, and Cancun. The international air corridor to Houston and Dallas shows moderate activity. 14:13 and 47 seconds. First anomalous detection. The radar screen emits its usual electronic ping as the contact suddenly appears at coordinates 25 degrees 47 minutes north, 100 degrees 12 minutes west, Sector 7 Alpha. Mendoza immediately notices the anomaly. The object has no transponder code, a mandatory element for any aircraft in controlled Mexican airspace. The initial recorded speed is 340 knots at an altitude of 15,000 feet, perfectly consistent with a commercial jet on a normal approach. However, its movement vector does not correspond to any established air route. The object is heading 140 degrees southeast, a trajectory that would take it directly over a densely populated urban area of Monterrey, violating air safety regulations. Santa Maria instantly checks the meteorological data, searching for conventional explanations. Atmospheric ducts that could cause radar reflections, thermal inversions, electromagnetic propagation anomalies. The instruments register no weather conditions that would justify the contact's behavior. Apodaca Tower Control, this is primary radar. We have an unidentified contact in Sector 7 Alpha, no transponder. Requesting verification of unscheduled traffic. Mendoza transmits over the internal radio. The response comes in seconds. Primary radar, negative. We have no authorized traffic in that sector. Maintain observation. 14:14 and 10 seconds. A physically impossible maneuver. What happens over the next 23 seconds defies all known aerodynamic understanding. The object executes an instantaneous 90-degree rotation without any transition period, changing its course from 140 degrees southeast to 50 degrees northeast in less than 2 seconds. The laws of aeronautical physics state that any directional change of that magnitude requires a minimum turning radius proportional to the object's speed and mass. No known aircraft can perform such a maneuver without disintegrating. Simultaneously, the object's speed increases exponentially from 340 knots to 1,200 knots in approximately 8 seconds. This acceleration represents g-forces that would pulverize any conventional mechanical structure and would be lethal to a human crew. The world's most advanced fighter jets, like the F-22 Raptor, reach maximum speeds of 1,500 knots, but they require several minutes to achieve that acceleration. The descent pattern is equally impossible. 8,000 feet in a straight vertical line at a constant speed, showing no characteristics of free fall or identifiable conventional propulsion. Mendoza remains motionless in front of the console, observing data that cannot be real yet is being registered by equipment calibrated to international standards of precision. His hands tremble slightly as he adjusts the controls, searching for some technical error to explain the impossible. 14:14 and 33 seconds. Sudden disappearance. The contact vanishes instantly from all radar screens. There is no gradual fading typical of objects leaving the detection range. There is no electromagnetic interference. The object simply ceases to exist in terms of radar reflectivity, as if it had been disintegrated or had suddenly acquired properties of electromagnetic invisibility. Santa María verifies the automatic recording systems. The data is being correctly stored on magnetic backup tapes, a standard procedure for all unidentified contacts. The recordings include both primary radar information and meteorological correlation, crucial elements for later analysis. Official documentation would later reveal that those tapes were classified as sensitive national security material, exactly 72 hours after the incident. The technical breadcrumbs begin immediately. The coordinates of the last contact appear blurred in the automatic logs, as if the system had lost precision at the critical moment. Signal overlays show anomalous interference that does not correspond to any known electromagnetic source in the region. At 14:16 hours, with no documented explanation, someone performs a complete reboot of the radar system. The technical logs show no operational reason for this action. When the system comes back online, there is no electronic trace of the incident, except on the backup tapes, which would soon disappear from the official archives. The file Anomalous Aerial Incident 1302-2007 would be created that same afternoon, a document that would remain classified for the next 16 years. The first 24 hours, emergency protocol. Commander Roberto Escobedo Maldonado, the officer in charge of air operations at the Apodaca base, receives the preliminary report at 15:30 hours on February 13th. His initial response follows standard protocols for unidentified aerial contacts. Activation of the Aerial Phenomena Analysis Committee, immediate communication with the Regional Air Command, and a request for cross-verification with civilian radar installations. The formal investigation begins at 08:12 hours on February 14th, with the formation of a multidisciplinary team: 2 radar system specialists, an air intelligence analyst, a senior meteorologist, and an electromagnetic communications technician. The stated objective is to determine the nature and origin of the anomalous contact registered as 1302 in 2007. The investigators are given full access to the facilities, equipment, and personnel involved. The recording tapes are transferred to specialized laboratories in Mexico City for advanced digital analysis. The preliminary results arrive 48 hours later with a disconcerting conclusion. The data is technically correct and shows no evidence of equipment malfunction. Phase 2. Systematic misdirection. On February 18th, the investigative team presents three potential explanations, all of which would be systematically refuted by technical evidence. First hypothesis: unreported weather balloon. The National Water Commission confirms that no weather balloons were launched in the region on February 13th. Additionally, balloons reach maximum speeds of 20 knots and cannot execute controlled maneuvers. The recorded speed of 1,200 knots automatically eliminates this possibility. Second hypothesis: commercial or experimental drone. A review of records from the General Directorate of Civil Aeronautics shows no flight permits for drones in the specific area. Commercial drones available in 2007 had an operational range limited to 5 kilometers and maximum speeds of 100 knots. The technology for a drone with the observed characteristics did not exist commercially at that time. Third hypothesis: electromagnetic reflection or atmospheric duct. Santa Maria provides an exhaustive meteorological analysis that rules out atmospheric anomalies. The temperature, humidity, and barometric pressure on February 13th did not present conditions for propagation ducts. Furthermore, electromagnetic reflections cannot generate patterns of controlled movement with abrupt directional changes. Suspicious technical errors. During the third week of the investigation, technical errors begin to emerge that compromise the integrity of the evidence. On March 3, 2007, a flaw in the archiving system automatically deletes 72 hours of radar recordings corresponding to the period of the incident. Technicians report that the failure affected only the files related to February 13th, leaving all other records intact. Internal communication logs between operators disappear from the main servers. The backups show data corruption, precisely in the relevant time segments. Spectral analysis of the digital recordings reveals inconsistencies in the metadata. Dates and times that do not match official records, altered digital signatures, and inexplicable time gaps in continuous data sequences. Evasive official communication. On March 15, 2007, the Mexican Air Force issues its only official statement on the incident. After an exhaustive technical investigation, it is determined that the radar contact reported on February 13th presents no evidence of a threat to national security. The incident has been classified as inconclusive due to insufficient verifiable data. The language of the statement is revealing. It does not deny the existence of the phenomenon, but it avoids any technical specifics. It does not mention the physically impossible characteristics observed, the recorded speeds, or the anomalous maneuvers. The word inconclusive suggests an inability to explain rather than a lack of evidence. Journalists who try to obtain additional information receive standardized responses. For reasons of operational security, the Air Force does not provide technical details about radar detection systems or procedures for investigating aerial contacts. What do you think really happened? Did the military authorities overlook something obvious? Leave me your theory in the comments as I continue with the years of anguish that followed. And if this story is impacting you, hit the like button so more people can learn about this case. Official file and permanent classification. On April 7, 2008, File FAM 2007-34AF is officially closed and classified under the category National Security Access Restricted. The documents were transferred from the Apodaca base to the Central Archive of the Secretariat of National Defense in Mexico City, where they would remain inaccessible for the next 15 years. The classification was a measure of unusually sweeping scope, covering not only technical reports and recordings, but also the testimonies of all personnel involved, meteorological analyses, internal correspondence, and even the service records of the operators on duty during the incident. For an officially inconclusive case, the secrecy was unprecedented. Subsequent administrative records show that both Mendoza and Santa Maria were subjected to routine psychological evaluations in April of 2008. Both were declared fit for service, but with specific operational restrictions. These restrictions included an express prohibition on working in the analysis of unidentified aerial phenomena and participating in the use of high-sensitivity radar detection systems. But silence, once imposed, is not always kept. In September of 2009, anonymous documents began to filter out to local media outlets in Monterrey. The reports included fragments of the radio communications from February 13th and specific references to the impossible maneuvers that had been observed. The editors of 3 regional newspapers received phone calls from national security officials requesting their patriotic collaboration to prevent the publication of information that could compromise sensitive military operations. No stories were published. On November 15, 2010, an anonymous internet account published a detailed post about the incident on a Mexican aviation forum. The text included the technical specifications of the AN/FPS-117 radar, the exact coordinates of the contact, and a precise description of the observed maneuvers. The account was deleted 72 hours later, and the post vanished without explanation. A subsequent investigation revealed that the IP address corresponded to an internet terminal in Monterrey, specifically in a cafe located just 3 kilometers from the Apodaca base. Behind the wall of official secrecy, the lives of the 2 operators began to unravel. The military medical files of Mendoza and Santa Maria, obtained years later through transparency requests, revealed disturbing patterns of progressive psychological deterioration. For Carlos Mendoza, medical reports from 2009 indicate severe chronic insomnia, episodes of anxiety related to his professional activity, and repeated requests to change his military specialty. In 2011, he was diagnosed with an unspecified trauma-related stress disorder. His annual performance evaluations, previously excellent, show a steady decline in ratings beginning in 2008. Miguel Santa Maria developed what medical reports describe as a specific phobia of electromagnetic detection equipment. In 2010, he requested a voluntary discharge from active service, a request that was denied due to pending contractual commitments. Psychological records mention a persistent avoidance of situations that reminded him of an unspecified traumatic incident. Both men developed evasive behavioral patterns whenever assigned to tasks involving radar data analysis or technical communications with superiors about operational anomalies. After 17 years of sepulchral silence, a broader pattern of institutional cover-up began to emerge. Documents declassified in 2019 under the Transparency Act revealed that the Monterrey incident was not an isolated case. Cross-references in administrative files mentioned special protocols for anomalous aerial phenomena, established in March of 2007, exactly 1 month after the Apodaca incident. These protocols included procedures for automatic classification, communication restrictions for involved personnel, and direct coordination with national intelligence agencies. Internal Memorandum FAMC 3/2007 states that all military personnel who report aerial contacts with technically inexplicable characteristics must be subjected to specialized psychological evaluation and the signing of specific confidentiality agreements. It was a protocol that had not existed before February 13, 2007. The most unsettling visual breadcrumb appeared in the form of a radar screenshot leaked through social media. The image, though distorted, showed an anomalous contact, an irregular shape that changed its configuration between consecutive frames, as if the object itself were morphologically unstable. The image was verified as authentic by digital forensic specialists, but its origin remains unconfirmed. The key to unlocking the 17-year-old secret would be found not in a secure archive, but in a mountain of electronic scrap. On September 28, 2023, Fernando Gutierrez Morales, a civilian technician and digital data recovery specialist with 15 years of experience, was examining a batch of discarded military equipment at an electronic scrap depot on the outskirts of Monterrey. His company had been contracted to evaluate technological equipment for sensitive information before its final destruction. Among dozens of obsolete computers and damaged servers, Gutierrez identified a high-capacity military hard drive, a 500-gigabyte Western Digital model, bearing Mexican Air Force inventory labels dated 2008. The device showed minor physical damage but was still functional. Following standard security protocols, Gutierrez connected the drive to an isolated analysis station. He discovered that it contained fragmented data apparently related to military radar systems. Most of the files had been overwritten multiple times, a standard technique for the secure deletion of classified information. However, using specialized forensic recovery software, he managed to partially reconstruct a 2.3 megabyte compressed video file and an 847 kilobyte audio file. The metadata for both indicated a creation date of February 13, 2007, at 14:13 hours. What he found was a ghost in the machine. The video fragment displayed approximately 47 seconds of a military radar screen recording. The images revealed the anomalous contact in real time. An irregular shape that appeared suddenly on the screen executed the impossible maneuvers previously described and then vanished instantly. The most disturbing aspects included its variable morphology. The object presented no consistent shape. In consecutive frames, it appeared as a circular point, a triangular configuration, and an elongated form as if it were capable of altering its physical structure or its electromagnetic projection at will. Its movement followed a z-axis trajectory, appearing to move in 3 dimensions simultaneously, creating paths geometrically impossible for any conventional aircraft. And it demonstrated a complete rupture of inertia. The directional changes were instantaneous, showing no transition period. The object would halt its movement in one direction and initiate movement in a perpendicular one with no intermediate phase, violating the fundamental principles of momentum. The compressed audio file contained fragments of the radio communication between the operators. The voices, later identified as belonging to Mendoza and Santa María, revealed a progressive escalation of tension and bewilderment. One voice says, "This can't be real, Miguel. The data makes no sense. I've checked the instruments 3 times. Everything is working perfectly. Do we report this upstairs? They're going to think we've gone crazy." Gutierrez immediately recognized the historical and scientific relevance of the material. His first instinct was to contact military authorities. However, his phone call to the Air Force's Civilian Liaison Office was met with an unexpected response. "We have no record of missing classified material corresponding to the dates you mentioned." The institutional denial aroused his suspicion. He decided to conduct an independent technical analysis. Colleagues specializing in digital authentication confirmed that the files showed no evidence of manipulation or fabrication. On October 15, 2023, Gutierrez published his findings on his professional blog. The post included a detailed analysis of the metadata, verification of authenticity, and a technical description of the content, without revealing specifics about the location or personnel involved. The response was immediate and massive. Within 72 hours, the blog received more than 50,000 visits from different countries. International specialists in anomalous aerial phenomena began to request access to the material. The digital dam had broken, provoking a predictable official reaction. On October 20th, the Mexican Air Force issued a concise statement. The institution did not recognize as authentic any unofficial material allegedly from military sources. The phrasing was particularly revealing, suggesting that the institution acknowledged the existence of official material on the subject, but would not accept leaked or partial versions. Gutierrez began receiving phone calls from national security officials, requesting a meeting to clarify the legal situation of the found material. The calls included offers of financial compensation for his collaboration and veiled warnings about the legal responsibilities arising from the handling of sensitive information. But it was too late. The material had already been distributed to multiple international specialists for independent analysis. The cover-up, effective for 16 years, was now facing the digital age of instant communication and global collaborative analysis. The recovered fragments were now subjected to a level of scrutiny impossible in 2007. An international consortium of UAP specialists, led by Dr. James Mitchell of Stanford University and Dr. Patricia Sanchez of MIT, applied advanced artificial intelligence to reconstruct the partially corrupt data and analyze its patterns of movement. Machine learning algorithms trained on thousands of hours of radar recordings of weather phenomena and conventional air traffic identified the Monterrey object as anomalous with 99.7% statistical certainty. The system detected 23 characteristics of movement that did not correspond to any known classification in international aeronautical databases. Digital spectral analysis revealed electromagnetic reflection patterns inconsistent with conventional materials. The object appeared to absorb and reflect radar waves selectively, as if it were capable of actively modulating its own electromagnetic signature, a technology unknown in 2007. The three-dimensional reconstruction based on the radar data showed trajectories that violated multiple fundamental physical principles. The conservation of momentum, the limits of acceleration for solid objects, and the geometric constraints of movement in a dense atmosphere. The object's patterns of movement showed unsettling similarities to phenomena documented by the armed forces of other countries, including the 2004 USS Nimitz Tic Tac incident and the 2013 Aguadilla, Puerto Rico event. As Dr. Mitchell observed, we are seeing consistent evidence of technology that operates outside our current physical paradigms. These objects appear to manipulate electromagnetic and gravitational fields directly, in ways we cannot replicate. But it was the thermal analysis that revealed the most profound violation of known physics. Using reconstruction algorithms developed for space missions, the team found that the object emitted no heat signature consistent with any known propulsion system. Instead, it displayed anomalous cold spots, regions where the temperature appeared to be below that of the surrounding atmosphere, suggesting some form of active absorption of thermal energy from the environment. This characteristic is physically impossible according to the laws of thermodynamics. The data indicated that the object seemed to selectively cool specific regions of the surrounding space during high-speed maneuvers, as if it could manipulate molecular thermal energy directly to facilitate its movement. On October 2, 2023, the International Consortium published its preliminary conclusions. The report, titled Multidisciplinary Analysis of the Monterrey Radar Incident, stated that the observed object did not correspond to any known aeronautical system, documented meteorological phenomenon, or instrumental anomaly explainable with the technology available at the time. The technical report established that the object exhibited 5 characteristics that defy conventional scientific explanation. Instantaneous acceleration, abrupt directional changes, variable electromagnetic morphology, negative thermal emission, and sudden electromagnetic disappearance. The conclusion was revolutionary. The evidence suggested a technology that operates on physical principles not yet understood by contemporary science. The phenomenon was real, instrumentally documented, and for now, inexplicable. The scientific bombshell triggered an unavoidable political fallout. On November 15, 2023, Federal Deputy Carlos Herrera Vasquez, a member of the National Defense Commission, introduced a bill requiring complete transparency on aerial phenomena documented by the Mexican Armed Forces. The institutional response revealed the true depth of the systematic cover-up. Documents declassified under legislative pressure confirmed that both Mendoza and Santa María, along with 17 other military personnel who had indirect access to information about the incident, had signed lifetime confidentiality agreements. Protocol FAMSN 2007 stated that all military personnel who have had direct or indirect contact with information related to anomalous aerial phenomena of potential relevance to national security are subject to permanent communication restrictions extending to the post-military period and applicable to direct family members. The documents revealed that violations were considered treason, with legal consequences that included military prison. The parliamentary investigation pulled back the curtain on a truth far more extensive. The Monterrey incident was part of a broader pattern of institutional concealment. Between 2007 and 2023, at least 12 similar cases were reported by military personnel at different air bases across the country, each one systematically covered up by the same protocol of silence. August 14, 2011. Pueblo, radar at Military Airbase No. 5 tracks an object, performing impossible maneuvers in civilian airspace. The case is filed away inconclusive. June 3, 2015. Veracruz, naval personnel report multiple contacts with technically inexplicable characteristics. The investigation is suspended due to a lack of technical resources. January 29, 2019. Chihuahua, a military control tower registers an aerial phenomenon with movement patterns similar to the Monterrey case. The file is immediately classified. The pattern is consistent. Initial detection, a superficial investigation, and then the case is archived as inconclusive, classified under national security protocols. In every instance, the personnel involved are subjected to psychological evaluations and forced to sign permanent non-disclosure agreements. These are not isolated incidents. They are evidence of a systematic cover-up. On December 7, 2023, WikiLeaks published a cache of Mexican military documents obtained through internal sources. The files included communications between different levels of command, revealing a deliberate, coordinated effort to conceal information about anomalous aerial phenomena. An internal memorandum, dated February 18, 2007, reads, "Implement automatic classification protocol for all reports related to aerial contacts exhibiting technically inexplicable characteristics. Information must be channeled directly to the Joint Chiefs of Staff, bypassing regular administrative channels." An encrypted communication from March 15, 2007 confirms, "Successful implementation of information containment measures confirmed. Personnel involved have been processed according to directives. No further leaks are anticipated." A follow-up report from April 22, 2007. Psychological evaluations completed. 2 elements require continuous monitoring for signs of post-traumatic stress related to the event. Reassignment to activities not related to detection systems is recommended. The documents confirm direct coordination between the Mexican Air Force, the National Intelligence Center, and the Secretariat of National Defense to keep information about these phenomena from public knowledge. What you are about to discover is more disturbing than you can imagine. If you think you can handle it, keep watching, and remember to subscribe if you haven't already. The analysis of the leaked documents reveals international coordination in the cover-up of anomalous aerial phenomena. Communications between Mexican and American military attachés mention shared information management protocols for events of a sensitive nature. A diplomatic cable dated April 4, 2007 states, "The government of Mexico confirms implementation of information containment measures consistent with international standards established by strategic allies. Discretionary handling of sensitive information related to atypical aerial phenomena is guaranteed." The implication is clear. A coordinated international protocol exists to suppress information about aerial phenomena that defy conventional scientific explanation. Mexico is not acting alone, but as part of a broader geopolitical strategy. The media pressure following the WikiLeaks revelations brings forth indirect testimonies from the families of the military personnel involved. Alejandra Mendoza, wife of Second Lieutenant Carlos Mendoza, provides a statement to local media revealing the personal impact of the cover-up. Carlos could never talk about what happened that day. For years, we had financial problems because his career stagnated after February 2007. He developed chronic insomnia and would have panic attacks whenever he saw military planes. The military doctors gave him pills, but they never allowed him to explain what was affecting him. The sister of Miguel Santa María reveals a similar pattern. Miguel used to be a meteorology technician. It was his passion. After 2007, he never worked with radar again. He constantly requested transfers to other areas. When we asked him why, he would only say he couldn't talk about certain things because of national security. The family testimonies confirm that the psychological trauma suffered by the military personnel stemmed not only from the phenomenon they witnessed, but from the subsequent forced silencing. The inability to verbally process traumatic experiences is known to cause chronic psychological deterioration, a fact well documented in scientific literature on post-traumatic stress. On January 23, 2024, after the case went viral internationally and under sustained media pressure, the Mexican Chamber of Deputies passed a symbolic resolution. It acknowledged that military personnel had documented aerial phenomena that defy conventional scientific explanation, and that the institutional handling of these cases had violated principles of government transparency. The resolution does not constitute formal legal recognition, nor does it imply specific institutional liability. There is no financial compensation for the affected personnel, no criminal investigation into the cover-up, and no structural changes to military protocols for handling sensitive information. Justice is limited to a symbolic acknowledgement with no practical consequences. The public revelation of the case has a complex psychological impact on the original protagonists. Carlos Mendoza, now 45 and retired from active duty since 2018, gives his first public interview through intermediaries. "For 16 years, I couldn't speak about what I saw. I developed insomnia, hypertension, and panic attacks because I had to keep a secret that challenged everything I believed about reality. Now that the information is public, I feel relief, but also indignation. I lost professional opportunities. My health deteriorated, and my family suffered the consequences of my forced silence." Miguel Santa María, currently working as a civilian meteorological technician in Guadalajara, provides a written statement through his lawyer. "What we observed that day changed my fundamental understanding of physical reality. We weren't crazy, it wasn't a hallucination, it wasn't a technical error. It was something real that we couldn't explain and we weren't allowed to share. The forced silence was more traumatic than the phenomenon itself. Both men report a significant improvement in their mental health following the public acknowledgement. The ability to speak openly about previously suppressed experiences is a documented therapeutic element in the treatment of psychological trauma. Alejandra Mendoza, now a mother to a 17-year-old son who never fully understood the reasons for his father's psychological decline, reflects on the family consequences of the cover-up. Our marriage was nearly destroyed because Carlos couldn't explain why he was constantly anxious and depressed. I thought it was normal work stress or a personal crisis. I never imagined he was holding a secret that was consuming him from the inside. When he was finally able to talk, I understood that he had been a victim of institutional psychological abuse. The family's revelation brings emotional reconciliation, but also resentment towards the institutions responsible for the silencing. The Monterrey case raises fundamental questions about the relationship between scientific truth, government transparency, and our own understanding of reality. The existence of phenomena that defy conventional scientific explanation does not automatically justify an institutional cover-up, but it does create complex ethical dilemmas about managing information that could alter fundamental social perceptions. The technology documented, with instrumental precision, a phenomenon that violates established physical principles. Contemporary science cannot explain the observations, but neither can it deny them. The official silencing did not erase the reality of the phenomenon. It only delayed the social process of understanding and assimilation. The 17-year cover-up reveals that government institutions operate on the premise of information control, prioritizing perceived social stability over transparency and scientific truth. This approach generates a documented human cost: psychological trauma for direct witnesses, an erosion of public trust in institutions, and a delay in scientific progress. The phenomenon of Monterrey remains without a satisfactory scientific explanation, but it no longer remains a secret. The difference between silence and mystery is fundamental. A scientific mystery stimulates investigation and progressive understanding, while forced silence breeds trauma and intellectual stagnation. The true story of what happened on the radar screens over Monterrey transcends the specific phenomenon observed. It is a story about the limits of human knowledge, the abuse of institutional power, and the personal cost of keeping secrets that challenge reality itself. If you've made it this far, it's because this story has resonated with you deeply. Subscribe to the channel and activate all notifications so you don't miss the next case. Comment below what case you'd like me to investigate next. Do you know of an unsolved case in your country? Let me know in the comments. Leave a like if you want more stories like this, and share this video with someone who appreciates well-researched true crime. I'll see you in the next case.